And I'm not now, never have been a member of the library. So a bit of audience participation. Who knew what the Chisholm Trail was 2 weeks ago? Most of you. Who regularly cycles to work? Most of you. And nobody's going to admit that, are they? And how much does traffic drop in a half-term week? There's some professionals here who should know. Alright, okay, yes, shut up there. So how many people would say it drops by 40%? Oh, you're a good lot. I spoke to a senior councillor who said he believed it dropped by 40% in a half-term week. We'll give you the answer later. So a bit of history. It was first proposed by me in '98. It was added to local plan in 2007. That was thanks to Claire Rankin, the city cycling and walking officer, who was working at that time. There was an options report using Cycling England money. You may remember what Cycling England was. In 2009. So that got things further, and it showed what the benefits were of certain sections and looked at some of the possibilities. But it's now a city deal project. So where are we now? There's a project plan and officer report is public. It was on 8th of July, so not very long ago, less than a month ago that it first became public. The City Deal Assembly was on Wednesday, July the 14th. And there's a City Deal Board meeting on the August 4th next week, which is a crucial hurdle. And there's public consultation in the autumn, planning application, and open in 2018. Well, certainly some sections should be open in 2018. I suspect certain bits might be a bit later than that. And I've got to move the mouse off the thing. So what did the officer report say? Multimodality. That basically means walking or cycling to the station. The project report. So this the idea is really, it should be everyday cyclists, novices, pedestrians. When I first started to think about this, I think some people use the word cycle superhighway. And the trouble with cycle superhighway is it does imply lycra louts tearing along. And really we don't want it that. It should be a route which opens up much of the city for people walking or cycling for short leisure trips. So these aren't very good slides because they're just lifted straight from the report. That basically show you roughly where the routes would go. The north bit is just the new proposed Cambridge station is just off the top, and Cambridge main station is just off the bottom, and all the blue bits are off-road, and all the red bits are on quiet roads. So this is Ditton Meadows, Fen Lane. So we've basically got the river going roughly east-west across the bottom. We've got the railway line going roughly north-south, and we've got Fen Road going across there. And there are difficulties there. Getting across the river is a problem. So it does look a bit like Spaghetti Junction, because basically Network Rail would veto it if they felt there was going to be extra foot or cycle crossing over the Fen Road crossing. So there has to be some way to get around that. And clearly, if you go over a bridge, you have to get down to the level again. So we've got sort of spirals on both sides. But I did some timing at the level crossing one day and reckon that for most people, actually going the long way around on average would be quicker than waiting for the crossing anyway. But you can see there's no direct link between the bridge over the river and Fen Road. It's a very indirect link, and there's a possibility that that link 7, that link 8 may actually have to be modified anyway. And this is the area about which you may have heard some controversy about Cambridge past, present and future. I've always had an aspiration to get a route under Newmarket Road, because it then means you've basically got a route which doesn't cross any really major roads. And I thought it was going to be very difficult. But the project report proposed a subway quite near the Leper Chapel, but there have since been some other discussions with Cambridge past, present and future, and it seems possible that the route may be moved slightly further to the east on a skew, so that it still goes underneath, and there's still what would be some cafe and a loos adjacent to the fishing lake on this side, but the route wouldn't be quite so intrusive on the immediate environment of the Leper Chapel. But obviously, a lot of these discussions are still ongoing, and the route will only be finalised when agreements are made with all the landowners. You may not know this area all that well, but basically we're talking right at the top where there's a little marshy land and everything. That's the bottom corner, which is actually off Ditton Meadows. It's some private land, and it seems that there are discussions going on about getting a route across there. We've also got what was the old railway line branch, which is basically just a stub end that went to an oil depot, and the suggestion is that part of that might be integrated into this route as well. This is probably the crucial section which I first looked at. We've got Mill Road across the middle, and basically the red lines are really where there is the good chance of getting a really good quality route in alongside the railway line. Because if you stand on top of Mill Road, which we'll go and have a look now, and look over, you'll see there's lots of wasteland, and also if you peep under, you'll see that there are actually several spare arches on each side. Some of which are bricked up, but two of which are really quite wide, 4.5 metres wide, etc. So you can easily get a good quality cycle route underneath there. And that will make lots of trips, especially within this area, much easier. The two areas on both sides of Mill Road Bridge are the area which are really accident black spots in terms of pedestrian cycle casualties because of people trying to cross the road. So some pics. Again, afraid these aren't coming out all that well, but basically this is the Network Railroad which already exists, which is behind Cavendish Road. And I think actually the dimensions on here are wrong. In that basically you've got a road which is an existing tarmac road, which is sort of 6 metres wide, which is used by the occasional Network Rail vehicle. And the idea is to put some sort of palisade fencing next to the sidings and enable all this route as being part of the cycle and walking route. This is a pinch point. This is on the north side of the railway bridge, adjacent to the sidings. When I first started to look at this, one of the issues was, well, I was told by somebody in Network Rail, oh, we can't put a fence within 2.5 metres of one of these overhead supports for the electrification. Apparently they've now discovered that actually, as long as you earth the fence properly, it's fine. I think the issue was on the North London line, it had some fences which were a bit old and rusty, and when they overhead electrified it, small children coming along and grabbing the fence because of an electric shock. And it was only, only a few milliamps. It might be quite just like you get from grabbing the HT lead on your motor mower. But basically they've now decided as long as they work the fences properly, you can put the fence. So we've actually got a space there where you could get a route in. There are a couple of places where it is a bit pinch pointy, but basically, now the bottom one is a crucial one. Again, this is going through, if you imagine the new, for those of you who know it, the new bit of the car park adjacent to the railway station, going north from there, there is a trackway which is used by rail employees as far as the steps up to Mill Road Bridge. But again, there is the space enough to get a route in. That's probably one of the narrowest pinch points we've got, of about 3.2 metres for a short distance. And this is looking the other way. There's a builder's merchant there. Part of the builder's merchant is going to be developed as housing, but part of the builder's merchant will remain. There's a little triangle which rather sticks into there, and there is an agreement as part of the planning process that they will hand that piece of land over. So there'll be a 4 metre wide strip through there. So this is where you don't have to go to sleep. You can't justify new cycling industry because it gets mammals from A to B quicker. And who knows what a mammal is? Well, not really. It's a middle-aged man in lycra. But you can justify it to get people out of their cars and get them healthy. And the non-user benefits may exceed the user benefits. One of the odd things is, one of the first sort of good cost-benefit analysis was done on the Victoria line. And on the Victoria line, they discovered that actually when you looked at the benefits of building the Victoria line, most of the benefits actually went to the people who remained in their cars or stayed on buses. Because the people moving onto the tube reduced the congestion on those roads. So they actually got you did the pot for the non-user benefits was bigger than the user benefits. And we often only tend to think of the user benefits. Right, peak hour traffic drops less than 15% in a half-term week. I got the figures for Milton Road from the automatic traffic counters, and over the 2 hours, 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock in the half-term week, they dropped by less than 10% over the average of the adjacent 7 other weeks. So what this actually shows, most people think that, oh, it's unachievable. You can't possibly reduce congestion just by giving people a better alternative of cycling or going on the bus. But you can, because you don't. 1 in 20, get 1 in 20 people to go on a bike, and 1 in 20 people to use a bus, and you've actually probably removed the congestion. You can also look at it. You don't have to. The queues on the main rails can be 100 cars long. 100 cars queue is about a kilometre long. So you've only got 100 people out of their cars in that peak, and you've actually solved the congestion problem. Cycling in the Cambridge from the necklace villages has doubled in the past 10 years. So there it's gone up more. It goes up more from the villages, partly because of things like the guided busway path, the path out to Shelford, and things like improvements on the Copeland path. So we've got a big, and those are the people who work it out, because it's the people who drive in from the villages 5 or 6 miles away who create the biggest congestion. Back in '98, I proposed a no cycling day. And my idea was that one day, about 80% of the people in the cycling campaign actually have a car in their garage. So one day my idea was that we'd all suddenly leave our bikes in the garage and drive our cars.
It's called when it rains.
And no, it's not. No, that's a fallacy. I blocked that fallacy. So basically my idea then was that then car drivers would see that actually cyclists weren't a disbenefit, they were actually a benefit. And they would realise then that if you've got a few more people on their bicycles, then they would have less congestion. So this is the last one. Why the utter reliability of cycling makes it quicker than driving. Those of us who cycle, we know how long it's going to take us to cycle. If you get in a car, you've got to allow all this contingency time, finding a parking space, because other delays are going to be worse than normal. Transport assessment for some fringe developments around Cambridge assume no one will cycle more than 2.5 miles. And they do that because they look at average times. So they say the average time for a car trip, it's shorter than a cycle trip, so people will clearly use their car. But actually, would you use the average time to catch a train? No, you'd probably use about the 1 in 40 time, 1 in 50 time. So you'd say, I can only afford to miss my train 1 in 50 times. So you have to allow this big contingency time. Which is why I always say that I live in Stapleford, and I always say I could stay in bed longer in the morning if I'm going to catch an early train to London. Because if I cycle than if I drive. Because if I drive, I've got to allow all that contingency time. I've got to find somewhere to park, etc. Whereas if I cycle, I know within 2 minutes. If the wind's against me, I can pedal a bit harder. So, okay, it's a fourth one. Oh God. The health benefits from active travel are huge. The DfT allows such benefits, cost-benefit analysis, that local sustainable transport funds, cycling city ambition grants, a lot of the evaluations showed that actually we're getting cost-benefit returns of 20 to 30 to 1 when you included all the benefits of having a fitter population who weren't overweight, etc. And also, the city deal is under Treasury rules. Only direct economic benefits can be included. So that means that when you looked at the list of the assessment of all the city deal schemes, the cycling ones did come a bit lower down the list than we would have liked, because they weren't allowed to include the health benefits in those assessments. So such cycling with the A10 corridor and the Chisholm Trail are a disadvantage compared with park and ride schemes. So what can you do? Spread the word, lobby your district councillors and county councillors, and there are some here. Participate in the autumn consultations, join cycling campaign, cycle, and what's happening now? The Greater Cambridge City Deal Assembly was on Wednesday the 15th. Mostly harmless. I wouldn't say mostly friendly, but mostly harmless is actually a quote from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Only advisory. But there was unanimous support from the Assembly. It was quite. I spoke at the Assembly, and it was quite sort of moving, really, to hear how supportive they were. The Greater Cambridge City Deal Executive Board. That's on Tuesday, the 4th of August. I'm told they're on side. We shouldn't expect them to throw a wobbly, which is what some people felt happened with the A10 campaign. There are 3 leaders, each with a vote. So it's the leader of the of the City Council, the leader of the County Council and the leader of South Kent, and they're the only ones to have a vote. This is ironic because that's one of the things that's imposed. It has to be a democratic process. You can't have people who aren't elected making votes. And the advisors from the Local Enterprise Board and the university. So this, I'm afraid this one's awfully dark. I took this morning. Please, sir, can I have some more? This is actually at the back of Rustack Road, the new housing estate on Rustack Road, where it's not very clear there, of course, but there's actually an 80-metre tarmac road, there's a 1.5-metre footway, and then on the other side of the palisade fencing, which you can just see, there's another network railroad. So there's about umpteen metres there, and this funny thing which just about shows here, that's the carriage washing siding. So what I'm saying is, there was an eastern entrance proposed to Cambridge Station in 1950, and that was because of the congestion at Cambridge Station. The rail authority said it was deliverable within 5 years.
Didn't say which 5 years.
That was back in 1955. That's the Holford report, which is this amazing thing about transport planning in Cambridge that was written in 1950. The space for access in the recent development, so the stuff off Rustack Road, actually leaves space for an access to this new station, and it was proposed again in 2011. It's a cheap way to reduce congestion on Hills Road. Easier access on foot and bike, so actually it reduces a lot of congestion. More cycle parking. No motor vehicle access, that was the question. I think Colin may know some planning process at the time there. I think there was some suggestion that you only need foot and cycle access to that side when they allowed the space in. And here, this is another photograph, again, taken this morning, rather dark. I would have lightened it up, should have really lightened it up. But you can actually from here, this is taken from adjacent to the flats off Rustack Avenue. I'm standing on the green space, which is the reserved area for the access. And in the background, you can actually see the footbridge over from the new platforms. Probably all go on, won't it, if it's more. Yeah, that's a bit better, yes. So basically here you can see, this is the green space with a pathway through to Rustack Road. This is the 8-metre wide tarmac road, which used to service the old Leica factory when the Leica place was on that site. On the other side of the road, we've got the palisade steel fencing, and further on, as I say, on the other side of the palisade fencing, there's also a network railroad, and there in the background you can see the steps up to the overbridge. So it's not beyond the Winter Man, and with the Chisholm Trail, the accessibility of that side of the station will be much greater. Time for questions, and thank you for coming.